My name's Izzy Roberts-Orr. I'm a professional communications student at RMIT City Campus, and I received the John Storey Junior Memorial Scholarship in semester 1 2014 for my exchange to Strathclyde University in Glasgow. When I was applying for the scholarship, I realised that one of the most important aspects of the application was actually the co-curricular involvement, and that was one of the most important things about John Storey Jr. himself, was his co-curricular involvement at RMIT. So when I was looking for things to fill out my application, some of the main things that I looked at were my involvement with VoiceWorks magazine as an editorial assistant. I've also done quite a lot of other writing volunteering. Even things like being involved in kind of like political parties and other student groups, helping out at orientation sessions and things like that through RMIT is absolutely fantastic to put on your application. One of the most daunting aspects of the application can be trying to figure out what co-curricular activities to include in your application. I'd say that it ranges anywhere from things like volunteering at SIN or even submitting articles to magazines that you might write for or websites. I know that for myself as a comms student, those were things that basically go hand in hand with doing the degree. Those things actually really fill out your application and count as excellent co-curricular activities. Other leadership things like mentoring other students, or even at RMIT, it's quite easy to get involved in things like the RMIT Link programs, or even the Education Abroad office is always looking for volunteers when we have events and orientation sessions as well. After working and saving for a year before my exchange, I was already pretty well financially planned, so I knew that I was going to be able to do this regardless of whether or not I got the scholarship. However, ever since I was 14, I've been working a minimum of 3 days a week to support myself. So having the John Storey scholarship was basically something that meant I didn't have to worry about running out of funds, and it was also something that gave me the freedom for the first time ever to really focus solely on my studies, my writing, and experience in Glasgow. Community engagement is something that I am personally quite passionate about in any case. I've come back and I've gone to get back involved with SIN with a passion. I redid my training and I'm working on a new show currently. I've come back and become an editorial assistant volunteer at VoiceWorks again, which I was doing before I left. I actually stayed in contact with that community as well while I was overseas. I'm applying for funding to make a new theatre show next year, and I've gotten myself engaged in a number of new writing programs and gone back to writing for a couple of magazines again in the month that I've been back from overseas. So I think also it looks really impressive to a lot of people that I can say, you know, I had a play put on in Paris last year. I was running writing workshops in Glasgow. I did a show at the Edinburgh Fringe. All of these things have actually really added to my standing within the arts community in Melbourne. To come back from travelling with that kind of experience has been really, really impressive to a lot of people. Flying into Glasgow was pretty terrifying because I was flying in on this aeroplane looking down at a city that I had never been to, that I'd never seen before, with a backpack and a suitcase full of clothes and nowhere to stay except for the hotel room that I'd booked myself for a couple of days. That was terrifying but also really exhilarating. Something that I certainly couldn't have done without the generous support of this scholarship was go to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I managed to go and perform at a venue that I'd heard a lot about from Australia as well. It was my first time at the Fringe, and do my own show in a venue for a couple of days, which was an absolutely invaluable experience. Studying media and communications was pretty different in Scotland. They have a slightly different approach to journalism and particularly to print media. But I ended up having a really fantastic teacher who mentored me and gave me the opportunity to pitch a radio play to the BBC, which was a pretty big deal, and also invited me along to the Print and Publishing Association of Scotland conference, which was a fantastic opportunity. I'm still getting newsletters from them now and learning some things about digital publishing that I would not at all have had access to if I hadn't gone to Scotland. People sometimes think going on exchange is just about travelling or having fun, but there's also this other element where you can really learn a lot about whatever you're studying. You can make some fantastic networks and connections, as well as learning about yourself along the way.